Okay. Which of the following is not one of the three tests, of the three main tests for determining if someone is your dependent?
A.
See. No, A is one of them. B is one of them, yeah. So there's a set of three tests that you have to meet before you can claim anybody as a dependent.
Dependency, dependent, and joint return test.
It's the dependent taxpayer test, the joint return test, and the citizen or resident test are the three main tests. So what the dependent taxpayer test says that if you're someone's dependent, you don't get to claim any dependents. The joint return test says that you can't claim any dependents if they're married and filing a joint return with their spouse, except in certain specific situations. And the citizen or resident test says that anybody you want to claim as a dependent has to be a citizen or national or resident of the United States or a resident of Canada or Mexico. The residency test, there is a residency test, but that's under the subcategories for qualifying child and or qualifying relative. Okay, so which of these tests are under the qualifying child test?
Okay.
Yep, all of them. Do you remember what the 5 tests for qualifying child is?
Relationship, age, residency,
Joint.
Joint return,
and
Support.
support. Yeah, remember the acronym that helps us remember that is JARRS, joint return, age, relationship, residency, and support. And then there's also a tiebreaker test. What is the maximum age for a child to be considered a qualifying child under the age test if they're not a student? 18 is correct. They have to be under 19, which is the same as saying 18 or less. Which of the following is not a requirement for a qualifying relative? D, correct. There is no age test for qualifying relative. Do you remember what the 4 tests are for qualifying relative?
There's the gross income.
Gross income, mm-hmm.
Support.
Yes, support.
And relationship.
Relationship or
resident.
yeah, it's member of household or relationship. And then the 4th one.
Not a qualifying child.
Right, not a qualifying child of yourself or any other taxpayer. Okay. Under the tiebreaker rules, who has the priority to claim a child as a dependent? B, the parent with whom the child lived longest during the year. A lot of people will think it's D, but that's not actually the case. It's
Yeah, anymore.
Okay, which of the following benefits can you claim if you have a qualifying child?
Isn't it all?
Yep, all of them. Yep, qualifying child will get you all of these benefits. Okay, what's the gross income limit for a qualifying relative in 2023? Yes. Which of the following is true about the dependent taxpayer test? B. You cannot claim any dependents if you could be claimed as a dependent by another taxpayer. Which of the following is not a benefit of claiming a dependent? D. The ability to file a single. Actually, A is also true. Your standard deduction depends on your filing status. So A and D both. Well,
Not.
C, lower tax rates, that's also a function of your filing status. So,
This is which is not a benefit.
right. Okay, so that question isn't very good. So for the residency test for a qualifying child, how long must the child live with you during the year? More than 6 months. Which of the following is a requirement for the joint return test? A, and B is also correct too, so I don't know if they give us these questions with more than one correct answer. The dependent is either unmarried, or if they are married, they don't file a joint return, or if they do file a joint return, it's only to get a refund of withholding. Which one is not a factor in the support test for a qualifying relative? C, not a factor. The dependent's age does not matter. So the amount of support you provide, the amount of support that everyone else provides are both factors. Okay. Under the tiebreaker rules, if a child is a qualifying child for more than one person, who gets to claim the child?
Person who lived with the child.
Well, not necessarily. Out of all of these, one answer is better than the rest.
Well, A, doesn't go to cover.
Not necessarily.
B,
Isn't that the same as the last question? Oh, no, it'd be D, the person who's the child's parent.
Yes. D. Parent always has the highest
I was
priority.
just thinking of two parents, I wasn't
Yeah.
thinking.
Yeah.
I was thinking the one who had the longest.
I'm like, this is really.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this question is a little bit confusing, but you have to read all the possible answers. So the person who is the child's parent always has first opportunity or highest priority in the tiebreak. If both the people involved in the tie are the child's parent, maybe they're unmarried parents and they live together or they don't live together, then it would be the person who the child lived with the longest. So,
Question says person.
right.
Yeah, that's the part that.
So the person who lived with the longest only applies in the case of both parents, if both parents want to claim a child. And then in the case of nobody being a parent who's involved in a tiebreak, or the parent electing not to claim the child as a dependent, then we'll finally fall back onto A, person with the highest adjusted gross income. B is never correct because the rules do not require that you support someone who is your dependent child. Okay. And which of the following is a benefit of claiming a dependent?
B,
D, all of these. Earned income credit, child and dependent care credit, child tax credit. Okay, what are the two main tests that must be met for a person to qualify as a dependent under the qualifying child criteria for personal federal income tax filings? Yeah, I don't know what they mean by two main tests, because there are 5, aren't there?
Yeah, and they like split them up, that was a weird question too.
Mhm.
But I won't be too, I figured those would be the first two things we looked at.
Yeah, joint return and residency, age and relationship, support and residency. Yeah, that's a silly question.
I go E.
Well, because age for qualifying child,
Mhm.
that right there, if they're over 18, that could be the first thing that puts them to qualifying child
Yeah.
relative. So that's one reason why I picked age.
Let's see what they have to say for themselves. Age and relationship is what they picked, but again, that's silly. I think all 3, A, B, and C, are all correct because the 5 tests are joint return, age, relationship, residency, and support. So A is correct, B is correct, C is correct. Okay, which of the following is not a requirement for someone to be considered a qualifying relative?
D.
D. Yeah, person who's related to in any way. There are only certain types of relationships that make that. Okay, true or false? Qualifying child must live with you more than half the year to be considered a dependent for tax purposes.
True with exceptions.
True, unless if there's a Form 8332, then the non-custodial parent could claim the child as a dependent. The 8332 must be signed by the custodial parent. So the answer is mostly true, mostly A. True or false, you can claim a dependent if they file a joint tax return with their spouse for the year. That's going to be mostly false. Again, there's an exception if the only reason they filed was to get their withholding back and they weren't otherwise required to file. Okay, for 2023, what is the age limit for a child to qualify as a dependent? Assume the child is not permanently and totally disabled.
Under 18.
Yep, under 19 if they're not a student, or under 24 if they were a full-time student. So D, both A and B.